The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated. Welcome back to the Nova Society, a space where dialogue deepens understanding and civic responsibility comes to life. I'm Dr. Mark Bound, joined by our regular panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon. Together, we'll unpack the stories that matter most, exploring the headlines, the history, and the big ideas shaping today's conversations. Let's dive in and hear what the panel has for us today.
Today we will be discussing a topic on the minds of many of our listeners. Candace from Butte, Montana writes, Viktor Orban's party was elected out in what is being described as a landslide in Hungary. I think this is interesting for us here in the United States, since Trump has used the Orban playbook to move us toward a more authoritative government. Trump even sent JD Vance over to stump for Orban. But for all Orban's and Trump's maneuvering, taking over the press with lackies, oppressive voting rules, etc., the people of Hungary had had enough and made the change, booting Putin's lackey. So I would ask, do you think Hungary will now return to normalcy with the rest of the European Union? Although it seems the new leader is far from liberal, do you think he will be able to dismantle all or some of the authoritarian policies Orban put in place? If Hungary does move away from Russia, will this have any impact on Hungarian-U.S. relations? That's a great question, Candace. Mark, Scott, the new guy is, I can't even pronounce his last name. It's,
Magyar? I don't think that's actually
Magyar?
how that's.
It's how it's
sort
spelled. Magyar, Peter Magyar, something like that.
So here's the thing about him, and I'm glad this happened. This was a great moment. It's really shows that the backlash against the right wing has started. It was continuing because I don't think that this is in isolation. The rejection of these really, really corrupt governments, which is kind of why he left the Fidesz party in the first place, wasn't over ideology so much as it was over pardoning sex offenders, corruption, stealing money and getting away with it because you're the party in charge, that sort of thing. And he found a sort of moribund party that was going nowhere. He made himself the leader of it. He is not a liberal, but he is different, and hopefully he will be more European centered than Russia centered, and that would be a big change. So I think there's good hope that this is one in a bunch. Poland and England and here in the United States, God willing, where we're moving away from the obsessions of 2015 and 2016, and we're getting back to a politics that is less based on culture and nationalism and more on patriotism and good governance.
Yeah. And there is definitely a difference between nationalism and patriotism. And the problem is that many people mistake one for the other. To the question, will Hungary start moving back more EU-centric? I would hope so. See, here's the problem with the new PM over there. You don't know as much about him as you would like, because let's face it, Orban controlled all the news media, so you didn't really get, we're going to find that out as we move forward. But we have to be very, very careful. What we hear from the news media over in Hungary right now might be a little suspect. So we might want to, look to the Germans, look to, the French and the Italians and the other news agencies that go into Hungary and start listening to them, because I think you're going to probably find a little bit more balanced discussion coming out of those other news agencies. But we'll see how it plays out. As I said, we don't know much about this guy, but he's not Orban. So I guess that's his claim to fame. I think that's a great thing. Can they get along? And Scott's right. He's not liberal. He is more toward the conservative end. However, let's look at Italy. Meloni is about as conservative as you can get as far as the Italian prime minister is concerned, but she seems to interact very well with the rest of the EU. I mean, she really does a very good job interacting with all the other nations that are maybe more liberal than she is. I mean, she basically, hey, this is our stance. This is our conservative stance here in Italy. You're welcome to your stance in France or wherever you're going to be. And okay, there's not that, gee, you guys are the enemy because you're liberals. And hopefully the new PM in Hungary will also be of that vein. Can they fix all that's been done? I don't know. He's got to start with the media, because that's where people get their information. And when the media is taken over, that's what probably the biggest hurdle he's got right now, as far as getting things back to normal in Hungary. I know the Hungarians are happy. I watched the news. That guy that was doing the dance thing, lucky he didn't break a hip. I mean, but hey, they were happy. And I think the other thing we should take out of this is, and the listener brings it up, JD Vance. Yeah, that didn't work out so good. I don't even know. I can't even remember. Scott, Brooklyn, correct me if I'm wrong. When was the last time a president sent the vice president to stump for another political leader in an election?
I don't think there ever was
before?
one. Not to my recollection, and I find it's so the hypocrisy just rips over the edge of the mug. And you talk about your cup runneth over. The hypocrisy just flows, and it flows off the table like the meatball, the song about the meatball that fell off the table. Talk about election interference, that Trump is always shouting about election interference, and yet here is someone from another nation directly saying, "Oh, vote for this guy. He's so wonderful. He has Trump support and this and that. It's so great." And the guy loses, which I thought was so wonderful.
And I was delighted. And he lost bigly.
Right. Yes, but here's the thing, and I do think this is really significant. I'm glad we're bringing it up. We're getting to it a little quicker than I wanted to, but that's fine. JD Vance has been set up to fail by Trump. Oh, yeah. And he sent him over there, he knows how to read a poll. I mean, Orban's been losing for a year. And sending JD Vance over there helps destroy JD Vance's brand. And then having him go from there to the Iran talks in Islamabad and losing on that one and coming home so quickly. I mean, 21 hours of hard negotiation. It took 2 years to create the JPCOA. And these guys walked away after 21 hours and said, okay, well, we're done here. And, let the bombing begin, I guess, or something. But it is ridiculous that Trump would send Vance and that Vance would go, because I imagine that if Vance said, "Oh, my kids are sick, or I got a dog that I got to take care of, I can't leave for that long," then he probably could have gotten away with that. But my God, does this like Marco Rubio must be like jumping through hoops right now, because Marco Rubio was with Trump at the MMA fight or whatever it was down there in Miami, while JD Vance was showing flop sweat in Hungary, and then in the Iran talk. So I think his brand has been really, really severely damaged by this. He's associated with losing. That's the worst thing you can be in the Trump world, right? Trump doesn't like to admit when he's lost, and to him, Vance went over there. And if Trump had gone there, he would have won by a landslide. But it wasn't Trump. He couldn't go. He was too busy with other things, like going to an MMA fight. And so he sent Vance, the next best thing. And Vance is a big failure and a big loser.
Well, Trump also said that he likes to surround himself with losers because he doesn't want to hear everybody else's big winning story and how great everybody else is. He wants
True.
to have them hear his great
But I can't
stories about
imagine.
how much of a winner he himself is. So,
Yeah.
well, of course,
But
Trump is inconsistent constantly. Anyway, go ahead.
yeah, I can't imagine that he wants him, being his next term. You know what I mean? Like associating the next Republican nominee with a loser would be a really bad blow to Trump's ego. So he's gonna keep searching for winners. But JD, like I think you could scratch JD Vance off the list right now. I don't think JD Vance has a shot at becoming the next Republican nominee.
You could be very well right because he has set him. I agree with you. He set him up for failure across the board. And now I guess they're going back this weekend. It's being reported that they're going to go back to talks. I just heard that today from the British. And again, it can't be an enviable position. But you're right. I think probably Marco Rubio saying, "But for the grace of God, there go I. Better him than me." So I don't know. And here's the thing: JD Vance was never a big fan of this war in the first place. I mean, he wasn't a big cheerleader for it. He wasn't doing the Lindsey Graham stuff. So it's just interesting to me that they send the guy that is not really supportive of it to do the negotiations. They leave the Secretary of State, whose really this job is to do these kind of negotiations. And yeah, maybe it is throwing him under the bus. Maybe that's all it is.
One point, though, did you ever hear? I don't know if I ever heard JD Vance say he was against the war before the American public and everybody.
It was reported in the New York Times in that article that Swan and Maggie Haberman put out there in the New York Times, a big meeting that they had, which has gotten so overblown, by the way.
Okay.
Because like Smirkanish was trying to use that as an example of Trump being rational because he went around the table and asked for people's opinions. But the fact is that all the experts says do not do this, and he went and did it anyway. But Vance was one of the people who said don't do this. So in that New York Times article, Vance identified himself as a person who was against this from the get-go. And in a sense, it does make sense to send somebody who's a little bit on the weaker side about their objectives anyway to go make peace, because you would think that he would be able to, to bend a little bit more than they've been willing to bend, as far as like levels of enrichment and things like that. But when they had the Paris peace talks to end the Vietnam War, the Vietnamese went to Paris and they bought houses. The Americans went and they got hotel rooms. And it took them 2 weeks to decide what shaped table they should have the negotiations over. And then the Americans caught on that this is going to take a while and we better hunker down and be here. So Americans, with our, get it over with quickly TV dinner mentalities, really need to understand that ingrained in the Iranian culture is a long-term negotiation. It is part of their culture. It is not part of our culture, and we're going to have to learn a little bit more about them before we're going to be successful at this. And again, it took 2 years for experts to get to the JPCOA. Experts from 5 different countries plus, I guess there's 6 different countries plus Iran negotiating that. And it's not going to happen overnight now. And Trump really just shouldn't have ripped that up to begin with. It was foolish and stupid and kind of insane, really. And now the expectation that you're gonna get something that's better than that in record time just seems like a fool's errand to me. I did not know, Mark, that they were going to go back this weekend, but I hope they've managed to scrape some actual negotiators out instead of sending Witkoff and Kushner back over there, because neither one of them knows what they're doing They don't, I mean, they failed to do the most basic thing. They don't even have translators with them. They're relying on the other side to do the translating for them. And they've done
Right.
that with Putin as well. So their need for secrecy, which probably comes from the fact that they're looking to get something out of it for themselves rather than for the country or the world, is hurting these negotiations, and they need to send somebody who actually knows what they're doing. And I think, I don't know, Mark, did we talk about this the other day? That we can't think of a single Republican diplomat anymore. I mean, the last one that I can think of was James Baker,
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah.
long dead. Maybe Condi Rice, I don't think was particularly good at it, but she was under, she
Maybe
was a Secretary of State.
Colin Powell, maybe.
He's dead again. Sorry.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's
Sorry.
like
I mean, just trying to think of. Yeah.
Like I know, there's John Kerry obviously is getting on in age, but
Right.
but he was a good statesman, and he had with him Tony Blinken, and he had with him Jake Sullivan.
Right.
There are people that you can send that are associated with the Democratic brand that you could send to meetings who are, Wendy Sherman, a great other example, is probably
Yep.
somebody who should be Secretary of State someday. There's a bunch of them, but I can't think of any. I mean, because look, we're a long ways away from the George W. Bush presidency, and Trump didn't have any his first term, right? I mean, Rex Tillerson was the Secretary of State at least for a while. I don't think Mike Pompeo is a negotiator. I don't think
No.
he's not a diplomat. So they didn't really have any diplomats. I mean,
hate
if
to say
there's
this.
anybody listening to this and they can think of somebody who would be a
Please
good,
let us know.
yeah, please tell me. I mean,
Let's face it. I think Tillerson was better than Pompeo.
possibly, but he's a businessman, and like negotiating for business is basically, I think, a lot easier than it is negotiating for nations, and there are so many different factors involved here that it's got to be a much more difficult thing to do.
Oh yes, definitely. And the reporting that they're going to resume talks this weekend is coming out of Great Britain. It's coming from them, so we'll see if that pans out. I have not heard anything on the American feeds at all. This was just something that kind of came up about 10 o'clock this morning before we got on from Great Britain. So we'll see if that pans out. There was a great somebody posted something that was absolutely brilliant. They said, what would really piss Trump off if the Iranians said the only person we'll negotiate with is a Barack Obama. They'd have to send him. And I don't know how that would work, but it's not unprecedented. It is not unprecedented at all. Former presidents going to other former presidents and
absolutely.
sending them out on missions.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. No.
Right.
No. But I mean, I found that extremely funny that somebody would actually have thought of that, and it would be a kick in the ass to Trump. But yeah,
yeah.
and again,
and just before you get there, just to put a little bow on this one, almost all of the appointees that Trump has sent to different embassies around the world, it's just, it's either to get rid of them, like in the case of Kimberly, what's her name, who he sent to Greece, right? Who's his son's ex-girlfriend, who he sent to Greece, and
Kimberly Guilfoyle,
right? Or it's or it's friends of his who are businessmen who he owes for one reason or another, and he's giving them ambassadorships, as a payback to them.
Or you get the Einsteins like Herschel Walker. You're going to send him, someplace.
Right.
Where the Bahamas? He went somewhere, Bahamas or somewhere in the Caribbean.
Yeah. Maybe Richard Grinnell, who I think is the FBI director now, had some diplomacy skill sets, but I can't think of very many of them at all.
No, you know what? You're right, Scott. There really isn't. Who's the guy that ran for president? I always liked him. He was Republican, and he used to be the ambassador to China.
From Utah,
Yeah,
the Mormon guy. Yeah.
I mean,
I'll get
he
back to you
seemed
on that.
he see well, yeah. I mean, but of all the crazies that were running back then, he seemed like the most reasonable of the bunch. I mean, it's a low bar, I know, but he did. He seemed like the. But I think he had a lot of success as the ambassador to China, and that's a tough place to be the ambassador in.
Yeah,
If
he
you
wasn't
get
a
there and you can
pushover.
handle it, got to give you some kudos onto that. But back to Hungary, we only hope that the people of the United States got the message, because and again, if I'm wrong, guys, tell me. I have never once seen a president of the United States send a high official, not even talking as far as the vice president, to go and stump for another country's elections.
I was going to say JFK sent LBJ to Liechtenstein to stump for them, but I don't think that really happened. I'm just joking. I don't think it's ever happened. We're not supposed to interfere in their elections. They're not supposed to interfere as in our own. So no, I don't think so.
What, bro?
Well, I was saying that I was thinking that an Orban gave way, he conceded, and that is something that I don't see Trump doing here.
Yeah. Oh, that's a fair point. Yeah. Yeah. I guess that we should bring that up. That Orban so far, it looks like he's going quietly. What an amazing thing.
Yeah, that is. I think that was kind of a surprise.
Oh, I do. Yeah.
I really do think
I believe the last thing you said to me before we signed off last time was let's wait and see what when he says that it was a fake election. And he didn't do that.
No. Yeah, I have to admit that did come as a surprise, but I guess with the landslide victory I guess there was really no choice. I think that he was it was the way it was going to be.
Yeah.
But
by the way, John Huntsman.
I was actually looking at that. Yeah, he's relatively reasonable.
Sure.
And I think if you survive in that environment in China as the ambassador and can navigate that, yeah, I think you've probably got some decent diplomatic chops. At least you better. If you don't when you walk in, you're probably going to have them after you come out.
Yeah.
So,
I do believe that Obama was the one who appointed him to. I think when he was ambassador to China and let me think about this. Maybe Trump sent him as an ambassador to Russia. So it's a little surprising that overlap there.
yeah.
But Trump didn't blackball him, but just because he had been appointed by Obama. He's actually served in every single administration since Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? That's pretty amazing. Yeah. I mean, look, if somebody told me that John Huntsman was going over to negotiate the Iran deal, I think I would feel a lot better about it.
I definitely would. I definitely would. Because he not only has he navigated being an ambassador in some pretty tough places, he's also navigated the Americans as far as the party system, and seems to.
Although with less success, because I actually think that I probably would have voted for that guy as president of the United States, and somehow or another, and I was really disappointed when he didn't make it through the primary. I'm guessing that was George W. Bush. Yeah.
Yeah. And the problem with Huntsman is, and I remember listening to him and listening to the reports about him, he was too smart, and that he was just too smart, and everybody said he was the smartest person in the room when you've got when they would do the debates, and fact is that a lot of people don't like those smart people. They want a dude. They don't
want a
want.
dude.
They want a dude. They don't
Yeah,
want. You know.
I doubt
They
he
don't
has
want
much to it.
Einstein. They want a dude.
I think his family fortune comes from the fact that his father invented that little styrofoam shell that they used to put Big Macs in back in the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that's how. If I may be mistaken about that, but that's my memory is how the family um made their fortune. Styrofoam cartons for McDonald's.
There you go. Nice thing is he's an Eagle Scout of the Boy Scouts, so that's good. Played the keyboard. Went to the University of Utah. So yeah, you know.
So just getting back to Hungary for a second. Now, you're going to be surprised at this, I think, but I'm
Uh-oh.
actually a fairly avid reader of the American Conservative magazine. And I first learned of Viktor Orban through the work of Rod Dreher, who's a devout Catholic, right wing, extremely conservative, socially conservative, everything, all about faith, family, and our country's Christian heritage. That's all Roger. And he actually moved to Hungary to live under Viktor Orban. So he actually like put his body where his mouth was. And I used to read his columns all the time in the American Conservative. And I thought it was really interesting. I'm not a believer, but I read these things whether I agree with them or not. And I certainly appreciate a good argument when I read one, and he's certainly capable of making those good arguments. But there's this whole idea of, I don't know what it's all about the Catholics and Catholics in America around the world sort of banding together. And if you look at all the Catholics who are in the conservative movement, I think you'd be surprised at the number of them. And JD Vance is, I believe, one of them, and is supported by Peter Thiel, who I believe is another. And you can go down the list, but they were all extreme Orban fans because Orban was promoting something that we're not supposed to do here, which was the role of religion in politics and in government. And one of the things that this guy is going to be up against, Magyar, I'm talking about now, the new prime minister, or will be prime minister, is the same thing that Joe Biden had to put up with, which is the fact that in Hungary, most people get their news from a source that was bought by friends of Viktor Orban and had a very, very Viktor Orban slant to it. And the amazing thing is that he was able to break through where virtually all the media in Hungary is state media and very pro-Orban, and yet somehow this guy broke through and won a popular election. But governing is another thing, and every mistake or every decision that he makes that can be second guessed likely will be second guessed. And you kind of wonder whether this is going to be a one-off like Biden. Now again, he's young. He's 40. I think he's 45 years old. So he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that deficit going for him. But he's going to have a very, very hostile press and media in Hungary to deal with. And that's, I think, exactly what Biden had to deal with after the withdrawal from Afghanistan. His numbers never recovered from that. And, Putin invades Ukraine, and all the right-wing media, which is mainstream media in America, says, that if Trump had been there, it wouldn't have happened. It's a ridiculous thing to say, especially at this point, because Putin hasn't left and Trump's been in office for over a year. But that, and that, the gas prices going up, egg prices going up, all of that is all Biden's fault. It will all be Peter Magyar's fault. And I know I'm not saying that name correctly. Sorry.
It makes me think because you're right. JD Vance is a Peter Thiel kind of guy. I wonder what, and not so much as much a Trump guy as he is a JD Vance guy. I wonder how that's going to work out for Trump. If Thiel is going to look at this and say, "Hey, you threw my boy under the bus," but as you say it back to Hungary, we have to remember too. This is not. He was there for 16 years, but he had been there before.
Right.
This was his second premiership.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think his first one was from 92 to 98 or something, or 98 to 2002. So he served 4 years. He was then taken out and then came back in. He was leader of opposition up until 2010, and then he was put back in. And his second government was from 2010 to 2014. He's been kind of, in and out. A lot like, and again, maybe this guy is going to be a one-off, like Biden was. Maybe that could be possible, but I think that he doesn't have, and it's got, I think, as you alluded to, he doesn't have the baggage that Biden had with Biden's age.
Right.
This guy, for what we do know of him, and I believe you're right. He's 45 years old. He's energetic. He is not. Hungarians, if you look at the history of Hungary, it has never been an overtly liberal nation. It has been pretty much, I would say, lean right, not crazy lean right, but lean right. They're rather conservative. So this might be the right guy. This might be the right guy that they say, hey, yeah, this is what we've always been used to. This is what we want, and they keep him in there, and I do hope so. And not only, we were talking about, he's going to face pretty much a hostile press because of the way it's set up over there, and that's all set up by Orban. He's also going to have a little trouble with the judiciary, because one of the things that Orban did was he weakened the judiciary. So to get the judiciary back to where it needs to be, that's going to be another hurdle that he's going to have to he's going to have to overcome. And it's almost like what I said in 2020 when the elections were going on. And whoever follows Trump, you got a long, hard road ahead of you. You got a mess you got to clean up, and it is not going to be easy. And you're not going to be popular. You're probably only going to be a one-term wonder because it's just such a mess. And hopefully, this young man that is taking over in Hungary does not face that same thing, because I think he's got the same ideology there.
Yeah, well, to your point, and I do think it's an important thing to bring up. There's an entity called the World Justice Project that assesses countries based on their rule of law, and Hungary is 27th out of 27 states in the EU in adhering to the rule of law. I think there's something like 79th in nations overall, which means that it's like, there are some pretty bad countries ahead of it. So he's going to have to a lot of judicial reform. There's going to have to be a lot of sort of reckoning there. That was the thing that the Biden administration didn't have the stomach for, I think, was going after the criminals. I mean, they obviously in our system until Trump, and I'll say second term Trump, the president has stayed out of the way of the DOJ, and his appointee is attorney general is his contribution to justice in America, and it's limited to that. Right. The obviously the attorney general for Joe Biden, what's his name, Merrick Garland, didn't hustle into holding people accountable. And by the way, nor did Obama. The thing that Ted Lieu did the other day, all the money that Stephen Miller has stolen from taxpayers is completely off the hook. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Ted Lieu played a tape that I think he got from the FBI of Stephen Miller being involved in creating a company that got millions and millions of taxpayer dollars funneled to it for no good reason at all. And that's the kind of corruption that I think Trump has allowed to happen, that he's participated in, but also allowed other people to do, and that there needs to be accountability for that whenever anybody gets around to it, and that they can't just keep saying, well, there were people who did a lot of stuff wrong, but we're just going to move forward without holding them to account.
Yeah, and probably that's one of the reasons why the Attorney General probably should not be appointed. It should not be a political office, because the fact is that, all right, and I agree with Scott, people should be held accountable, and the DOJ should go after people. I don't care what your party is. If you've done wrong, then by damn, you should have to face the consequences. But it's the appearance, because let's remember, when we elect a president, when we elect a government, when we elect a party to office, we're only talking 52%, 53%, 54%. There's another 46%, 48% that is in opposition. And I think that's such the DOJ now has to balance that, where all right, we've gotten into power. We don't want to see like we're being punishing to the losers. And we're going to kick the losers while they're down. And I think it's that the fact that the United States is so divided, and has been for so very, very long, that it makes it difficult for a political appointee as the Attorney General to appear not political when they're doing these investigations. And I think that goes back to, you could go all the way back to after the Civil War. How many were pardoned there that shouldn't have been by Lincoln? Not taking that attitude of, yes, you did wrong. Yes, you were traitors. Yes, you were insurrectionists. Yes, you were this, you were that. Yes, you created a civil war. But we're not going to punish you for that because, well, you're part of the country, and you're a large population part of the country. And I think that balancing act, you're right. I think you and me, Scott, have talked about this numerous times about Merrick Garland. I think Merrick Garland was a weak attorney general, but I don't think he was unexpected. He was always a very quiet judge when he was with the District of Court of D.C. He was a quiet judge. He wasn't the bombastic one. He definitely wasn't somebody, like, I don't know.
Sheldon Whitehouse?
There you go. There you go. So Anton Scalia or somebody like that. The guy, this new prime minister in Hungary, I think he's got a little bit of an advantage because there's a parliamentarian system. When Biden got into the office, Congress was still divided. You can only do so much. Where he's in a parliamentarian system, and they control, and I think they're still coming up with the numbers on how many seats they're going to get. But again, it's a significant amount. He doesn't have that obstacle. He can make the changes that I think Biden couldn't make, only because of the system that we live in here in the United States, and always keeping in mind that there's that divide. 52-48 is how it generally goes for electing a president. So 48% of the people that voted didn't like the person that's in or are in the other party. And so it's the appearance. And I've always been a firm believer that the Attorney General should not be a political appointee, simply because if you're going to have them be a political appointee, they have to worry too much about what it looks like. And I think that's a problem in itself. But we do definitely wish all the people of Hungary the best. They seemed very, very happy the other night when I was watching.
Yeah, I think that they're. By the way, I just read that Roger, who's been living in Budapest, is now going to move to Vienna. So he's had enough of the Hungarians. That this is. Yeah, he needed to go to a place that was a little bit more right wing than it is. But again, he's not a left winger. He is a right winger. The issues that they seem to be consumed with are, I think, getting old. Immigration is an old issue now. Like if you haven't solved the immigration issue by now, then you're just neglecting your job. right? I mean, even in Germany, when I was in Germany quite often in 2015, 2016, and they were being flooded with refugees, they were doing their best to assimilate them. Again, and my boss gave paid workers to teach recent immigrants and refugees to speak German, but they recently announced that I think it's like 3 million Syrians are expected to leave Germany to go back to Syria. Like we're past that issue. Syria should be a good place to live, hopefully, for the rest of time. And their new government, completely the opposite of the Assad government that was there that drove refugees out to begin with. Obviously, there are other refugees from other places still coming to Europe, which the Europeans are backlashing against. But it's got to be manageable at this point. It can't be as out of control. It can't be this enormous flood that they had to deal with 10 years ago, 12 years ago. So I think even though this young man is a right winger, is an anti immigrant politician, it's not going to be as big an issue there as it had been. Again, the judiciary is another matter. The press that he's going to have to deal with, the fact that the media is still owned by friends of Orban, is going to be a thing that he's got to learn how to deal with. And I honestly, I don't know how you deal with such a thing, except the way Trump does it, which is calling anybody who any media member who doesn't agree with him fake news or the worst and totally biased and all that kind of stuff. I don't know how you explain to people out there that Fox is not an actual news source. It is the media wing of the Republican Party. They're never going to support anything that a Democrat does. So if you're getting your news from Fox, you're getting biased news, and maybe it's time to change a channel. And maybe you would do better in your life under Democratic presidents than you would under Republican presidents. It's insane that the reputations of these two parties are what they are because they're completely the opposite of reality. Democrats are more fiscally responsible than Republicans. Democrats do better with the economy than Republicans. In Hungary, he's going to have to deal with a lot of things that Orban probably looked really strong on, but Orban was also so anti-LGBTQ, and Orban was, illiberal and so openly illiberal in so many ways that he's going to have to learn how to negotiate those avenues and probably be a bit of a challenge.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to be a challenge. I mean, like I said, he's got to first of all a mess to fix, and again, there's nothing wrong with being right wing, and I think we've seen that, like in Italy. She hasn't been like. There's something wrong with being crazy right wing, just as much as there's something wrong with being crazy left wing. You want to be, moderation people. Yes, it's okay to follow like Orban, very big on the Catholic Church, the Hungarian Catholic Church. Okay, great. That's great. But he was also, as a younger man, he was the secretary of the Young Communists.
Right.
Maybe not so good. maybe not the thing you want to be, or the person you want to have doing this. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting balancing act. I hope this is a sign of things to come. Hopefully, it's something that we'll take notice of,
and hopefully this is part of a trend. And
yes,
that people don't want look. It's not conservatism. There's nothing conservative about Donald Trump. No. Donald Trump is corrupt. His party stands for corruption. This is a kleptocracy. His people are stealing money from American taxpayers and funneling it to themselves. Do something about that, America, because this ain't right. And that's exactly what this guy ran. And he quit the party, Orban's party, because of corruption, not because of any kind of ideology.
Yeah, I was thinking about I don't know anything about Hungarian culture. It's interesting to think about American culture and how impatient we Americans can be. When Biden was elected, everything was supposed to be fixed immediately as far as COVID the outcomes and consequences of COVID were concerned. We expected prices to be adjusted and lowered immediately. We expected inflation to be lowered immediately. Everything was supposed to be great immediately. And that's just not how economics and reality, they don't conform to magical thinking, which is why what Trump says and what he believes, I mean, he can say whatever he wants as far as this is true, that is true, and this is going to happen and whatnot. But I mean, he said, he was on, I guess, Maria Bartiromo's show on Fox, and he was asked about gas prices, and he said that, well, they might come down. He hoped they would come down. They could come down. They could stay the same, or maybe they could go up. Well, yeah, I mean, there's like 4 or 5 scenarios there, and one of those will happen. So, I mean,
that's clear as mud.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're either going to go down.
That's a long time Trump thing where you say everything, and then when you say, well, you told people that they had to go defend their party, their country, and they had to do it, in a harsh way. And he goes, yeah, but I told them to do it peacefully and quietly as well. Yeah, but all is true. He says everything. At one time or another, he'll say something and then 7 seconds later say something exactly the opposite, and he gets to choose which one he wants to repeat based on the scenario going on at that moment.
Correct. Well, as he gets worse, as mental illness gets worse, of course, he's going to become more and more erratic, as we've continuously are seeing. What I wondered was, I don't know anything about Hungary. I don't know anything about their culture, and whether the people of Hungary will expect Mr. Magyar to make adjustments and corrections and produce the types of outcomes that the people are looking for after 16 years of Orban. How quickly the people will expect their country, their nation, and all the changes in society that they're looking for, how rapidly they're going to expect all that to happen. I mean, if they're going to be patient, like the Russians are patient, because they've had so many problems and issues there, that they just, and certainly the Chinese think in terms of generations, whereas we think in terms of very short time frames. So I don't know how Hungarians think.
I don't know anything more about Hungarian culture than you do, other than that it's very goulash based. And I will say that the goulash is good, and it should be appreciated. But here's the thing: under Orban, Hungary became the black sheep of Europe because he's so close to Putin. He's so anti-Ukraine and wants Ukraine to be a part of Russia. Now, where is Magyar going to be in terms of Ukraine? I would imagine that he would slide back towards the EU, and that he would be more pro-Zelensky than pro-Putin. But obviously, I don't know that, and I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But you would hope that he would be, want to move the country closer to where Europe is and further away from the East.
There's 199 seats in the Hungarian parliament. You have to have 100 to have a majority. And this party that Peter Magyar is in has 137. So they have a super majority. They cannot be overridden. The other interesting thing is that this party, and it's TISA, I believe it is pronounced TISA, was only founded in 2020. They are a new party. And Peter Magyar actually came from Orban's party.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, it's kind of, so, hey, all those third parties out there, there is chance, there is hope.
Okay, but again, Mark, he left that party because it had become corrupt, which I think over 16 years, I think there's probably some kind of stat out there that 8 years of a president is enough, right?
Yep.
And that longer than 10 probably leads to corruption. And I'll bet you could look at a lot of different places and see that that's true. And so he left that party. This is a really bizarre thing. He actually played a tape that he had made of his ex-wife, who was a member of the government, close member of the government, that exposed corruption, like favoritism in the law for a pedophile, believe it or not, protecting a pedophile in a very staunchly Catholic country that really can't go down very well, you would think. And so he left that party altogether, joined this party, which, as you say, was a new party. It was not very well known, didn't have any seats or didn't have a lot of seats, and sort of transformed it into what it is today. And it took a couple of elections to do that, but here we are. And look, I mean, there is some hope, but why, if there was a left winger running, I probably would have supported the left winger, but I think that this is a middle ground type of thing. So for those of you like Mark who like moderation, this is your guy.
Yeah, and the other thing to take out of the Hungarian elections, there are over 7.4 million registered voters. Their turnout was 79.56%. Imagine if we had something like that.
Yeah, I
mean, truly. And yes, we're talking about Mayor winning a landslide. He only won 54.5% of the vote.
That covers the spread.
That covers it. Well, and the fact that there's a third party in this who only got 5, almost 6% of the vote, got 6 seats. So that's there, and that's also which Orban's party dragged them down, because they only got 37.7% of the vote. So yeah, it's interesting to see that when you start putting in this mix and you start really looking at what's going on in Hungary, there's some history to this. This is something that they write books about. Here was a guy that was in the party that was evil. They were corrupt. He moved and he created his own party, and 6 years later he's in charge. And yeah, so we'll see how it plays out in Hungary, because it's an important country. It really is. Orban was never for Ukraine. I'm going to be very interested to see what this guy says about Ukraine. And I think that if he wants to take a playbook from somebody that is right wing, that is in the EU, take it from Meloni of Italy, because she seems to have navigated that very, very well. Plus, she's a looker too. Just saying, she's definitely a looker. Right. Anyway, all right.
On that high note.
That Giorgia Meloni is a looker. That's it. And that's all the time we have for today's episode. The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We want to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing team, Apple Podcasts, the largest source of podcast and music online, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your destination for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. And most importantly, we want to thank you, our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society could not be possible. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing on the platform of your choice. It's easy, it's free, and helps our channel grow. For questions or comments, you can reach us at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So on behalf of Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershworth, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power of society is knowledge. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Journal of Interdisciplinary Conflict Sciences, the JICS. This open access journal, double peer-reviewed, provides a platform for emerging scholars to publish their work and engage in meaningful dialogue across disciplines. The JICS is currently accepting article submissions on an ongoing basis and is published through the NovaWorks Scholarly Repository at Nova Southeastern University. You'll find a link to the journal in our episode description.